Hello, Andy Evans here, Aevo guitars, part 44. Okay, so I was looking at a catalogue today from a famous American part supplier for guitars and stuff, and I was thinking about when I was an apprentice a long time ago. A lot of hand tools we used to make ourselves. A lot of them weren't available, so we used to sort of improvise and buy stuff from the hardware store and change it a little bit. So I've actually made a list, and I'm up to about 15 hand tools that we just bought from the local hardware store, or we made, and little jigs and tools and things like that. So here goes. I'm going to tell you a few tips that you can do without you know, bursting the wallet buying all this stuff from catalogues and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I think it's great that you can buy all this stuff nowadays, but when we started out making the guitars in the 80s, it wasn't all available. So first one, fret cutting saw. That's a fret cutting saw. That's a proper one that you can buy. It's getting a bit blunt now, so I need to buy a new one. If you haven't got one of those, or you can't afford to buy one, get a good hacksaw and use a metal blade in it for cutting metal. You can glue a depth stop onto it, so that works perfectly. And if you get a metal blade with the blades going backwards, so it's cuts on the pull stroke, it does the same slot as that fret cutting saw. So that's number one. That's one tool you can save a few quid on. You know, you can pick these up for €8, €7. This is quite a good quality one. It's an Irwin one. So, you know, there's one tool. Fret cutters. Okay, so I just bought these from the local hardware store. Ground them off here with my Dremel. A Dremel's a good idea, or a bench grinder. You can pick up a bench grinder, €20. So that or this, just simple nippers, you know, cutters. You can grind this edge off here. This also works as fret tang cutters. You can just use this, you know, cut the tang off, file the edges, put it in the file, and then file what's left with just a hand file. That's number two. Number three, fret crimping. You can just use these for crimping your frets. If you do the refret and the fret slots are too big, you just get your fret wire. Here's a piece here, and you can actually just crimp it like this and make it actually a bit wider, the fret wire. Works a treat. So that's number three. Number four, fret leveling file. You've seen this on an earlier podcast. This is just a file, piece of mahogany epoxied onto you know, a file that I've cut in half, epoxied onto a bit of mahogany. Very simple. Always make sure the file is going that way. You don't want it this way. They bend slightly when you buy them, so just check and make sure your file is going that way. So that's number four. Number five, fret slot cleaning tools. We just had a normal Stanley blade that we ground, and we ground a bit out of it, and when you've got your binding on a fingerboard and you need to clean it out, you need to get something in there and drag it out. You can buy these online. They're not that expensive, but as I say, back in the day we just had a Stanley knife. We ground sort of a hole out of here basically on the wheel grinder, and that worked a treat. Pick these up. Well, you know, you can pick these up for a couple of €. Radius gauges, you can make those out of wood. Very simple. Find something, say you're doing a 12-inch radius or a 10-inch radius, 25mm or 25 centimetres or 30 centimetres. Draw around something, find something like a bucket or whatever, it's round, draw around it. Just make them out of wood. Very simple. Cost peanuts to make, you know, just cut them out. Very simple. As your radius gauge, I've got 12 and a 10-inch there, so that's my radius gauges, believe it or not. Fretboard radiusing sanding block. This is 3 pieces glued together. I need to make it a bit longer really, but it's just 3 pieces glued together. I cut out a piece like just on the bandsaw, cut it out use like this to get the radius, cut it out, glue them together, and then you use sticky back tape on there and put your sandpaper on, and that's your fretboard radius sanding block. There's another sanding block. It's just an offcut of a piece of mahogany that's been planed here. I checked it to make sure it's level. Bit of sticky back tape, sticky back paper, sandpaper on there. That's another sanding block for leveling stuff. Fret, for putting your frets in. This is a bit of aluminium that's got a 10-inch radius here. I use that to bang my frets in, and then I turn it over and use the flat bit for the middle bit with a mallet, big mallet. You can make your own mallet, which I did at the beginning, but I bought one now anyway. But I'd actually like to get a press for putting my frets in, so I don't like all the banging, you know. Here's my cat again. Say hello. So that's that one. This thing you can buy, I don't know what they call, I'll have to find out. You can buy these anywhere, any hardware store. You can make your side dots with these. You can just do that with a bit of plastic, a bit of Lego, side dots. Scrapers. Old hacksaw blades are very good for scrapers. Come on, cat, out of the way. Hacksaw blades, the big hacksaw blades, you can file the top of them, put it in your vise, file the top, and you can use them as scrapers, you know, cabinet scrapers. Or you can get, this is a planer blade that I picked up €2 for 2 actually, and these last forever. They're so sharp, it's hardened steel. You can bend it. It's very good for doing the back of necks, carved tops. I've glued 2 bits of mahogany on. What else? Neck supports for when you're doing your fretting. That's just a bit of mahogany, a bit of carpet glued on. Very simple neck support. What else have we got? Reamers. I'd prefer to buy a reamer, but they're quite expensive. They're €70–80. If you haven't got a reamer, you can use a countersink that goes in your drill. You know, when the lacquer builds up, or the varnish, or whatever finish you're using builds up around your control holes and your tuner holes, you need to clean those out with something. And I found a good quality countersink works a treat, you know, for cleaning them out. Plug cutter. We used to use tubing. If you say you're doing your dots on your fingerboard and you want to make them out of wood, you can buy a bit of tubing, and you just file away at just an edge of it and make like a little like a V shape in it, and then you bend a bit of it out, and that becomes, you can use that as a plug cutter to make little wooden plugs with it, and basically you're making like a little teeth of a saw blade into the end of the tube. Very simple, takes about 10 minutes to make. You can also buy that stuff, you know, but I'm just trying to do a podcast on DIY hand tools, you know. What else is there? Fret crowning. So you can buy a little file, you know, the triangular file, grind away the corners, or you can have a little file like that. You can buy those sets, you know, the set of 6, and they work perfectly for crowning your files, your frets. Sorry. What else? I think that's it. So there's 3 things that I'd definitely buy. Nut files, good quality nut files for doing your nut slots. Buy those. A good straight edge is always good, you know, a stainless one. I've been buying these €5 aluminium ones, which are great when you first get them. But after a while they get a few dings and dints in them when you drop them and stuff, and then they're not straight anymore, you know. So you have to buy another one. So a good quality stainless straight edge is important. It's worth buying. You need a protractor if you're going to mark out your fret slots by hand. Basically, this podcast, if you don't have it, improvise it. It can be done. You can make a lot of things yourself. For instance, we used to make our own pickup covers with a vacuum cleaner and a gas bottle, like a Keller gas bottle. Take out the air out of it, create a vacuum in the gas bottle basically. And we had a few, I won't go into detail, it's in an earlier podcast how to do it. Inlays, the inlays holes, we used to use a scalpel and wood chisels, used to do it all by hand with a good set of glasses. Well, I didn't need glasses back in the day, but I didn't need them now. So a scalpel and sharp wood chisels, you can cut out your little holes for your inlays. So a grinder and a Dremel's worth having. That's it really for this podcast. I just thought I'd do a quick brief one. I was looking at these catalogues, you know, from America and stuff, and thinking, oh, there's a tool there for everything. But then I was like calculating the cost of every tool, and it adds up, you know, all these little hand tools adds up if you buy them. Like a hammer, I mean, we used to just, for knocking the frets in, we just had a normal hammer, we clean the edges up on a grinder, a round one. So you can make a lot of this stuff yourself. Like that, for instance, that's truss rod. It's marine grade stainless, 5mm. It's got 2 nuts on the end that are locked up with a Loctite, and that will be my truss rod. I'm probably going to use a spoke wheel adjuster, which I'll have to buy. As I say, a lot of this stuff can be made. In about an hour, I've got a delivery. I think it's here now actually. A delivery of hardware coming. So my next podcast, I should be putting it onto a guitar, and I'll show you that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.